We'll leave the verbiage to others tonight to just try to paint the best picture we can of what's at stake and where things stand now. This is the first picture we want to show you. It comes from Anaheim in Southern California. The Angels versus Tampa Bay, the last game of the night and potentially of the season. That's the audience right there. The next game of the season comes tomorrow afternoon in Chicago if, and I say only if, players and owners can hammer things out between now and 2:20 p.m. Wrigley Standard Time. And the talking goes on tonight in New York, so we begin by going back to Josie Karp. Josie?
Good evening, Anderson. Talks are very much in progress. Behind me is the headquarters of Major League Baseball, and just about an hour ago we had probably the most dramatic picture of the day when Union Chief Donald Fear led a 6-person negotiating team from his office to this office. That negotiating team included 2 players from the Atlanta Braves, Tom Glavine and also B.J. Surhoff. The 2 sides have been going back and forth all day and all night long. This is actually the 5th face-to-face meeting that is taking place today. Earlier, we had the Union number 2 man, Gene Orza, come out and say, we're close. I just don't know if we're close enough to appease the owners. Again, that's an example of some of the rhetoric that you have to weed through to try to figure out what exactly is going on. An 11 o'clock conference call was scheduled for players tonight. They had one earlier. They were told to be prepared for another one. It's at that time that they're supposed to be apprised of things like what to do and where to go tomorrow. So again, talks in progress. They've met 5 times, and clearly they still have things to talk about, and you can take that however you want. But the fact is, back in 1994 at this time, they hadn't had a single substantive discussion about any of the issues. And now we're getting 2 hours and counting until the actual day of the strike, and they're still talking. Anderson?
All right. Thanks very much, Josie. We promised no cliches tonight, but Keith Olbermann is here to read the tea leaves. Welcome back. So you've been working your sources all day. What did you hear about what went on in the meetings today?
What went on in the meetings today is exactly that word that Josie used, which was appease. The owners had a series of things they wanted to come out of these negotiations with. They wanted to have breaks on escalating salaries by this luxury tax methodology. The union didn't want to do it. They've agreed to it. They have agreed to it and increased the beneficence of their offer to the owners on it repeatedly, and did so again today. They wanted to reserve no tax for the 4th year of a 4-year agreement. They gave in on that today. They also have given in on drug testing. They've given in on revenue sharing. They have at every point said to the owners, okay, you want this, here's what we have to do. This is how they've changed it from just Tuesday when last we spoke. They were asking that no team be taxed until they reached $125 million in payroll. Now they've changed that down, remembering less is more in this bargaining, down to 118. The numbers have slid in each of those 4 subsequent years. And the big one at the end, they wanted no tax as of Tuesday, and now they've gone into the owners and said, 135, 140 million in that last year. So there has been repeated attempts by the players to do what the owners wanted, to actually give back significantly in ways certainly they've never done before, and probably no sports union has ever done before. They were met early today by a lot of resistance by the owners who thought, well, maybe we can really break them at this point and say, you know, let's see you go on strike and ruin the game. In other words, get out those nuclear weapons and see what happens. And that hard line thing on the part of the owners seems to have been fading throughout the day. They'll probably be talking throughout the night, and for a settlement to occur, it has to fade completely.
Some rumblings, though, about possibly delaying a strike deadline?
Only in an informal sense. A lot of the owners were saying, in fact, they did not think the players would go on strike. And the last time they said that, which was in 1981, the players went on strike for 50 days. So they were wrong that time, and I think they're wrong this time, too. However, in previous negotiations, as Josie pointed out, by this time in the process, we knew there'd be a strike. The players knew there'd be a strike. The players were already given up to that idea. Now, this thing could conceivably go till late morning Friday, and the players would just have to wait, and the teams would just have to wait, and the fans would just have to wait. The idea being it's better to negotiate as late as you possibly can rather than say, okay, we're not close, we're not going to budge on this, we're going to give up now. So that by itself is a unique occurrence in the history of baseball labor.
I've got actually a couple friends going to this Chicago Cubs game in Chicago. The Cardinals are playing, and they really don't know what to do. I mean, a lot of people travel to this game, and they don't know whether they should go or not.
Yeah, it's entirely consistent, though, throughout the stadium. The fans don't know, the players don't know, the owners don't know, and it may, in fact, be sunrise before we find out. But in terms of baseball negotiations, that's a really good sign. And I think they will be using all that time well into the night to try to hammer out an agreement. And really, at this point, with what's on the table, the owners can take it and declare victory, and the players can say, look at the concessions we made for the benefit of the financial future of the game, and it's a win-win in that situation and now.
I mean, different teams are affected and are going to be affected by this in different ways.
Right. Well, the way the union started out with their proposal on luxury tax, which is essentially what this is all about right now, almost everything else has been almost solved and can be resolved in a matter of minutes. Originally, the only team that would be taxed under the union proposition, the only team that would be hindered in any way from spending more money on players, would be the New York Yankees. And the owners wanted 6 teams, originally 8 teams, and then they went down to 6. The players have come up to 3, so this would now also affect Texas and Los Angeles in the player proposal. And if they can finesse this a little bit further and add maybe one more on that players list, so that'd be Los Angeles, New York, Texas, and maybe the Boston Red Sox as the 4th team, that's probably the doable deal. That's probably the solution. And if the owners go along with it, we will play baseball tomorrow. And if the owners don't, there'll be a strike. People will perceive it as the players' strike, but it will ultimately have been caused by the owners' intransigence if that's the way it ends up.
So foreseeably, we could wake up tomorrow morning and still not know.
Correct. And we can have negotiating at sunrise.
All right, Keith Olbermann, thanks.